All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Fort Worth Community Arts Center and edition number 70 of our boxed lunch program. We are back live today and very, very excited to welcome the one and only guru of the art world, Mr. Bert Pigg. How are you doing today, Bert?
I am doing great, Jason. How about you?
I am doing well. I had a very fun weekend and made it through the rain. We got through the original work series of all 9 readings, and so very excited to talk to you about our upcoming live production of The Architect and the Emperor of Assyria, which you are directing.
Last time I checked.
Now, Bert, it has been a year, not just a little shy, I guess, since we last traversed out into the world of live theater with our production of Zoo Story at the Arts Center. And we had the privilege of being directed by you in that production as well. And here we are a year later, moving back outside. Do you mind giving us just a real quick synopsis of what people can expect with this particular storyline outside at the Arts Center?
Well, it's not for the faint of heart. We have a little bit of perversity for everyone. It's classified as an, quote, absurdist play. I'm not sure I really agree with that. There's a real discernible plot line that goes through the play. It's not readily apparent when you first read it, which that's the joy of a rehearsal process, in that you discover what the play is. And we've had a great time working on it. I have 2 incredibly talented people in the cast. They're both amazing, Sean Gann and Megan Harris. And I'm looking forward to everybody who comes see this, seeing their talent on display, because that's really what it's about. It's a great play. And if you have a great play and good actors, mostly a director just needs to have the good sense to stay out of the way. That's what I've tried to do.
Awesome. So, Bert, what are some of the different challenges that you've faced as a director, not just dealing with random absurdist plays, but also trying to produce and perform safely in the midst of a pandemic? What are some of the challenges that you face with Zoo Story? Maybe we've gotten over, but still having to address in the current situation.
We kind of ran the rehearsals with Architect just like Zoo Story pretty much. Zoo Story was a play that lent itself to being performed masked, which you guys did. We took each other's temperatures every couple of days. We made sure we were safe. I was socially distanced from you guys. The play was blocked so that you guys were pretty much socially distanced, with the exception of one little bit at the end. And that's kind of how we've gone about Architect. Everybody's been vaccinated now, so it's a little easier, but we're in actually a bigger space than we were for Zoo Story. And this play, we did 3 weeks on Zoom before we went live, and then we've been outside the whole time, or almost the whole time. Everybody is masked whenever they're inside performing it. Yeah, there's some physicality, but we've been very careful. The stage manager and I have always been socially distanced, and we still are with them. So it's really just a matter of trusting Megan and Sean, and they're grown-ups and they're professionals and they're doing what they need to do.
Awesome. Well, I know I've had a chance to catch a few rehearsals, and you are right. I can't think of 2 more talented individuals in the DFW area, and also very safety conscious as well. I had the
Yeah, they both are. They're impressive as people as well as performers. I wouldn't have. I typically I don't direct plays unless I kind of have a cast in mind. I certainly would not have undertaken this play without those two. So, I have a lot of plays on my list that I sort of hold in abeyance until I have the right people and the right circumstances to do it. I'm a lot different as a director than I am as an actor. As an actor, I'll play a tomato. I do anything with acting, but I'm picky about directing.
Gotcha. Well, in the vein of our box lunch program, I know that you've made things pretty simple on your end for lunch today. Do you mind cluing us in on what sort of nutrients you're taking in today for box lunch?
It's a healthy yeast-based beverage that contains essential grains and carbohydrates. So I'm
Cheers to you as well. So, well, Bert, I'm not going to be outdone by that.
What do you have for us, Jason?
I know a lot of people give me grief for all my menus, and today I had the good opportunity of retaining some leftovers from Terry Black's Barbecue. And I just want to say to everybody out there, I have some beef rib meat, which I have chopped up. Best beef ribs I think I've ever had in my life.
Wow.
And along with that, I've thrown some pepper jack cheese on some leftover hot dog buns, thus completing my beef rib torpedoes. So while we chat, I'm gonna warm up my air fryer, which is something new that I've been doing. And then as soon as that little bell goes off, I'm just gonna throw the rib meat on those lovely bread morsels, throw them in there, and then I'll reset that heater again.
You are a veritable Graham Kerr of cuisine, Jason Leva.
My mouth is watering. 70 episodes of Box Lunch, and I'm pretty sure about 50 of those were barbecues. So, so Bert, there's a lot of talk out there in the theater world. Should we, shouldn't we? Why are we doing this? Why are we fighting to get back to live production? Are you comfortable talking a little bit about why it's important that we continue to find ways to produce live theater, live art safely?
Because it's essential to our life. We're not fully alive or fully human without live performance.
I've heard a lot of people talk in the past and in the present about reflecting the challenges that we face every day. One of the things that I find so fascinating about this particular show is the way that it really exemplifies, to me anyway, how we have an assumption that we're making the right choices and doing the right things. And then, of course, as that plays out, we realize maybe we need to pivot a little bit.
Right. Maybe
and
we
I know
need to reevaluate. Yeah.
Exactly. And that is a catchphrase that I've heard a lot in the last year about pivoting. And I cannot think of a better piece that I've ever read or seen where that is expressed so gracefully in this particular piece.
Yeah.
Now, Fernando Arabel is the author. Is that correct? Did I say that right?
Arabal. Mm-hmm.
And this was written in the 60s. Is that correct?
Yeah, 67.
And he's a Spanish playwright. Do you mind touching a little bit about some of the inspirations that led him to develop this piece?
Well, Arabal was involved with an avant-garde theater company in Paris at the time when avant-garde theater was a thing. Most of his early writings, at least theatrical writings, because he's widely published. He's a poet, he's a novelist. He's written criticism. He's written 7 or 8 plays. At that time, he was back in the 60s, he was politically active. Not so much anymore. He's still alive. He's elderly now, but it was a fervent time in theater. You know, theater really changed in the 60s, from sort of this staid 3-act structure that we all have to go into a proscenium space to see. And we suddenly discovered, you know, you don't have to do theater that way. You know, it's just as valid if you do theater in an island of a parking lot, or if you do it on an underneath an awning outside, or if you do it in a courtyard, or if you do it in a concrete bunker. You know, it's as viable anywhere you choose to put it on, because the space is not what's important, or it's not of paramount importance. What's important is that the environment you present a piece in is appropriate for the piece.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's been a real movement about what people call happenings or experiences, or these flash mobs that have been
Right.
popping up a lot more recently. And truth be told, that's a lot of what these artists were doing even back then.
Yeah,
I think it
sure.
was
Yeah, absolutely.
a movement, actually. You know, we say absurdist plays, but they were really a bigger part of, and I want to make sure I've got this right, the theater of pain movement. Is that right?
Yeah, that's probably a subcategory of the absurdist movement. And theater of pain was kind of an outgrowth of the devastation wrought by World War II. So you don't see that kind of stuff so much in the US, whereas you saw a lot of it in Europe, you know, especially with the countries that got destroyed the most, you know. So France, you've got a lot of that. In the Low Countries, you know, Belgium and Holland, you've got a lot of those kinds of movements came or as a reaction to the devastation wrought by World War II. The absurdist movement, you know, I mean, a lot of stuff came together at the same time. So you had, you know, the existentialists came out of that. Certainly, absurdist theater owes a big debt to existentialism that was happening in literature. Um, it's kind of all interconnected, and it's stuff we in America didn't really develop ourselves, except as a response to what was coming out of Europe primarily.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of those happenings. I think one of the first things he did was set in a square and uh, undressed and whipped himself. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, yeah, somebody's got to do it.
It's just so funny to me that people say, you know, oh my gosh, have you seen this flash mob? What a new and interesting thing that is
There's
happening in the
nothing
art
new and
world. I
interesting.
know. And
There's
then I'm
nothing
like,
new.
they've been doing it for years.
For
And
centuries.
so it's so interesting to me how people think that these are new ideas and new practices.
Yeah.
And granted, they have put a spin on them, but a lot of this stuff has really been around for a while. And you know, I bring up the theater of pain movement because you talk about that coming out of the losses and the things that came from World War II. Are you anticipating a renaissance of art now that we're in this rebirth, if you will, coming out of this pandemic? Are you hoping to see some more of these mirror to life sort of plays and stories coming out of that? Or do you
Yeah.
feel as though we're going to fall a little bit more towards, um, I'll say, comfort food for the soul, and a little bit more of the classics and traditional feel good theaters? Where are you hoping this goes, and what are you anticipating we'll see?
Well, I think you mentioned the relevance of the play we're doing, and the play is about, on one level, the play is about the recreation of civilization, and we're at a unique point in time, and there's a great opportunity right now to recreate theatrical civilization. And with technology, everything is possible now. It's just as valid to do the Star Spangled Girl as it is to do The Architect and the Emperor of Assyria, as it is to do original pieces that people develop. I think what I think will drive a renaissance in the United States is if we develop good writers. I think that's been lacking for the last 30 years or so. We are not in a golden age of American playwriting, and I hope that we see that come about again. I think we need to, or what I hope plays will start to explore more, is the idea of cultural and ethnic inclusion rather than bifurcation and segmentation. You see it, but it's not, it's still unusual enough where there's this gloss of, I hate to use the word gimmickry because it's not that, but it's still unusual if you see it. And, I'm hoping there comes a time when it's not unusual. We've got some stuff coming up where, I will have women playing men's roles, or what's traditionally been men's roles. And,
Yeah.
it just doesn't matter anymore. And this thing, Megan's female. The Architect is written as a male. Like, who cares? Megan's the best actor I know for the job, and it doesn't matter to me if she's male, female, or a one-eyed goat. She's the best human being to play the role that I know of. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope we see more of that. I hope we see pieces that aspire to profundity that are originally developed. I think it's been long enough that we no longer find A Streetcar Named Desire or A Long Day's Journey into Night profound in the same way audiences did in the 1940s. And I think we need to find our own theatrical voice in American culture as it continues to evolve and change. I think there's a real search for, right now, what are we? I don't think those questions were addressed as fully as they might have been 50 years ago.
Yeah. I find it interesting that you say the writers aren't, I don't want to say not valid. They are. I mean, I've read some great scripts, but I do agree that the quantity doesn't necessarily match the quality in those options. Why is that? Have we gotten soft? Have we had a good 30 years of not having to struggle? Why doesn't that happen anymore?
I think there's a hesitancy. There's a lack of criticism in both schools and in the commercial marketplace. And I don't mean criticism by like your play is great or your play sucks. I mean like someone who can explicate why this play is a good play. The Architect and the Emperor of Assyria is a good play. It may not be everybody's cup of tea, but it is a good play and it will be well performed. You might not like it, but that's kind of not the point. The point is, is it well constructed? Does it have something to say? Does it reflect something back about the human condition? Is it relevant to the world we live in right now? Those kinds of questions, I think people don't address. And then you layer on top of that the economics of theatrical production. It's like, well, can't possibly do The Architect and the Emperor of Assyria because we won't make any money. I went to film school, and you look at the breakdowns for scripts, the production companies are looking for. It's like, well, it's got to be self-contained and it's got to be 8 characters and it can only have 1 or 2 locations. Well, you don't want a movie, you want to play.
Yeah.
I think people who do what we do are naturally sensitive to perceived negative criticism. And I think that's because people don't know how to be a critic. People who profess to be critics, I don't think they really know how to critique a play. So, and then, you have I don't know if that's what you need in Dallas, Texas. I think if Dallas, Texas, we're not New York, we're not Chicago, and the goal is to get butts in the seats. So the safe move is, you do whatever, you do Barefoot in the Park yet again, or you do, Oklahoma yet again, and that's a real drag on progress.
Yeah,
it's not that Oklahoma isn't great. It's not that The Odd Couple isn't a great play. It's just that it's like everything else. It's a safe move because you can make your money back. And until we get past that in our thinking, I think, and that's kind of what we should be doing. You and I and some of the older folks around, we need to figure out, I'm doing the architect. We paid for royalties, that's it. You can make it up. You don't need, if you're going to do Oklahoma, yeah, you might need, Surreys with fringe on top. But if you're doing this, we could do it with flashlights and, the actor's own clothes. And that's what's exciting to me about the creative process is, find a way.
Yeah, absolutely. You speak of critiques. I'm quite excited to critique my sandwich. So I have laid that out there. The bell went off. I'm just going to throw this back in here as we start to wrap things up and see if I can melt that cheese without burning it. So Bert, I've had the privilege and the pleasure of working with you on a few productions. I don't know if you would feel the same way saying that about me, having had to direct me now on a couple of occasions.
I would put you in any play, anywhere, anytime that I'm directing. So.
Well, you say that after we've made it through, but I know I've probably...
I say that during.
I'm pretty sure I've challenged your assets as a director on a couple of occasions.
Compared to, so many others, you're a walk in the park, so don't worry about it.
I'm so interested now. You have a penchant for revolutionary messages, absurdist theater, and you studied in London. Is that where that comes from? Or are you just naturally drawn to those sort of stories? Why is it that, why does this continue to be a constant in your wheelhouse?
No, I went through a very classical training. So it was, voice and movement and Shakespeare and, restoration and all of that. So it didn't come out of my training. I did a lot of years of doing plays that are dinner theater fare. I've done a lot of musicals. I've done a lot of light comedy. And, I've gotten to a point in my life where I don't need to do that anymore. What I need is to be intellectually and emotionally challenged, and I need to be interested in something enough to spend 8 weeks on it. I think we're a really complacent theatrical society in this country, and I want to do my minuscule little bit to, shake things up a little bit. I think we need shaking up. I think we need shaking up all the time as actors, as performers, as dancers, as symphony instrumentalists. It's nothing of lasting importance came out of complacency.
Absolutely. Do we owe as much as producers to the artists that are creating as we do to the audience that we're engaging with? Do we owe more to one or the other? What's it like trying to find that balance between giving an artist something and an audience what they need?
Yeah. Well, they've been having that discussion since Aeschylus. For me, before you even have that conversation, you got to figure out what it is you owe to the play. To me, a play is a living thing. It does absolutely no good for anyone to read in a book. It only becomes valid when you put it out there. I'm always conscious of the economics. I've run 2 theater companies in my life, and I generally, with a few notable exceptions, but generally I try to run shows that can be put on for like no money. So if it doesn't make any money, then nobody got hurt too badly. My first job, I think, as a director is to serve the playwright and to create an environment where that playwright's work is shown to its best advantage. My second obligation, I think, is to act as an advanced scout for the audience. So, I don't ask actors to do stuff that I don't think an audience would want to see. I mean, that's the balance I keep in my head is, I have to always keep the viewer in mind, and the actors shouldn't have to do that. The actors need to worry about acting. My job is to mold the experience into something that, an audience will find valuable to watch. Doesn't always have to be, it doesn't always have to be the Star Spangled Girl. It's valuable, at least to me, it's valuable to watch Trojan Women. It's valuable to me to watch Tartuffe. I'm not, nothing but a guy, I'm a schlub from Dallas, Texas. As I want to be entertained as much as the next person, but you're eating barbecue. I subscribe to that. I don't want to eat Twinkies. You can't live on a diet of Twinkies your whole life.
That's very, very true. So, another big hot button debate over the last couple of years have been English actors taking American roles.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit? What did you see personally as a difference in the approach or the styles studying abroad and then producing in the States? Where is that debate? What is it about? And what have you seen personally in your training? And
in my experience, it's the Brits are beating us out of roles so much because the Brits know how to act. They're trained to learn how to act. A lot of what happens in this country with training is we're training you to be on a TV series. And that's that's a skill. No, and I'm not denigrating that skill, but the fact is so many of the institutions here want their alums to become, working on a sitcom or working on a police procedural or whatever. And that's not what it's about in England. Also, I think here there's a bigger cult of celebrity
Right.
than there was in England when I was in school. That's changing, I think, in England. But when I was in drama school, you could go into a pub and you'd have I used to see Ian McKellen and Derek Jacobi in the pub, and you could just sort of go up to them and, say, like talk to them about stuff, and they talk to you back. Here it's like you couldn't get close to what Johnny Depp or somebody. It's just a different thing. There was a kind of a fundamental respect for labor. So what do you do? I'm an actor. Oh, that's great. What do you do? I'm a bricklayer. And they're both equally valid. Here, you got to be in limos and all that kind of stuff to somehow validate your existence as an actor. And what you have here, I think, is a lot of people in the movies and on TV, and they don't know how to act. When I was directing stuff in LA, you'd get people who come in and audition all the time, and they whisper these things about, and you'd go, yeah, okay, that's great. And you give them a piece of direction to see, and they go, oh yeah, that's really valid. Then they do exactly the same thing when they give you reading. You just go, So I don't know. I think like all generalities, of course, this isn't true across the board, but we hold, we only think of actors in this country, I think, as movie stars, right? So, and that's kind of not what it is. And theater, even when I was starting out 50 years ago, the regional theater movement was still vibrant. All I ever wanted in my life was to still do, just like get in a car, go to, whatever, Ashland. And then when winter comes, I go to, Minneapolis and work in the Guthrie, or then you go to Seattle rep or what, that doesn't really exist too much anymore. When I went to New York, I was at the tail end of, oh, you can pack up your little car and go to New York and maybe work as an actor, take your shot like everybody else. But now when plays got to make $2 or $3 million a week, of course, it's only going to be movie stars in, To Kill a Mockingbird or whatever, it's not the same anymore.
Yeah, and it's so funny because it seems it was just the opposite of that when all of these things started in terms of name dropping and relevance to today. The Best Actor winner from the Oscars had his take on this particular piece as well. Sir Anthony Hopkins played the Emperor. Is that right?
He did. He played the Emperor in 1970, and Jim Dale played the architect.
Yeah. So even the movie stars like to continue to practice their craft and have had their hands in a lot of these works.
When I was at Lambda, Patrick Stewart's then wife was my movement teacher. So I used to go babysit their kids. I spent Christmas with, Jean-Luc Picard once,
Oh, man.
He was just a working guy, he worked for the RSC and was playing, some great roles on stage. And, it was, at least in those days, it was, much more integrated into daily life than it is here. I don't know.
It's just fascinating. Bert, we've talked a lot off camera, and I always just love these conversations. And one of the things that I admire about you so much as a director and an artist is you don't limit yourself and your choices and your views to just the practical components of production, blocking, get out of their way, sit down, speak loud. There's all of these things that I've had the insight from you about the importance of knowing not only the play's history, but the history around it, the things that motivated those things. And, you know, you drugged me to Scotland, and it was
And you loved it,
was
didn't
just a
you?
life-changing experience to be able to think outside of the play. And I just have so much admiration for you about the way you craft your messages. There's always something behind it beyond just the basics of production, and it's one of the reasons why, you know, I love working with you and seeing what you bring to the table as an artist. And I think you know, you touch on some really valid points about the importance of engaging with the art as an audience member, as an artist in the show. And it's one of the reasons why I always enjoy visiting with you, and certainly look forward to
Well, you're very
seeing your
kind,
shows.
more kind than I deserve.
Well, so you've got me coming. Can you give me just a little bit of build up for why a layman should come? What is the average theater goer going to get to experience from this show?
Going to get to see, you'll get to see a couple of things. This play deals with a couple of things. It deals with the nature of love and how most of us have a hard time accepting it when it's offered to us. You will see, you should experience something about how inconsequential our construct of civilization, in quotes, actually is. You should experience something about, you know, a return to a more natural state of being is preferable than the trappings of modernization. And hopefully you will have a great deal of empathy for one of the characters, because that particular character can't really get there. And that's what's the expression? Those who can't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. I think there's an element of that in the play. It's all set across a really surreal presentation.
Yeah, for real.
I think but it's essentially at core, it's about how do you love yourself, or how can you love another without loving yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a wonderful button to put on this piece, and again, a fabulous way for us to wrap up and get back to our own daily life and see if we can't
Do we have
continue to
to?
find ways to get through that as well. So
That's no fun. Let's stay in the theater.
well, we'll be right back there tonight for our
Yep.
Tech Week as we
Yep.
prep up for our opening this Friday night, 7:30 at the Fort Worth Community Arts Center. I just want to remind everybody we are outside, so you can bring a blanket, you can bring a
Yeah.
little picnic basket, your
Yeah,
chairs,
absolutely.
stretch yourself out safely, and come see some fantastic art.
And
the
and
Fort
if
Worth-
it's raining by chance, we will be inside, so we will not postpone a show. We will.
Yes. So
we
we
will
have
do it
backup
inside.
plans for all of that, and again, just doing our best to encourage getting back to some artistic endeavors safely and with everybody's best interest in mind. So Bert, before I sign off, I just want to show you how these things turned out. Now, if you'll notice,
that
my
is
special
tasty,
ingredient
tasty looking,
today,
tasty
a little bit
good.
of little spicy brown mustard there. So little tip for all of you out there, when you put your leftover rib meat in the oven, it might get a little dry. So just put a little bit of any kind of sauce, honestly, will work, and enjoy that as well. So Bert, I can't wait to see this, and cannot encourage people enough to head to the website, purchase your tickets.
Yep.
www.fwcac.org. Grab your tickets, come out, spend an evening with us outside. It is going to be some lovely weather, some fantastic performances, and we cannot
really
wait
good.
to share this with everybody out there. So
Yeah.
Bert, as always, it's a pleasure to visit with you. And I so look forward to doing all we can to make sure that people are able to get out here and see this fantastic show. So thank
Great.
you. Any
Thank
final
you.
thoughts for our audience out there as we
No, I
move
think
into next week?
you kind of summed it up. The performances in this are very good. And, you know, they're really great performers and deserve to be seen. And you will not have a passive experience, I will say. You will have a reaction to this play. I can almost guarantee that.
Oh, I love it. That's what art needs to do. So, all right. Well, folks, that wraps it up for another edition of our Box Lunch program. I want to remind everybody we are open at the Art Center. We have some fabulous galleries, 2 lovely theaters, a lot of fun events coming up. So head to the website if you have any questions, and we will be back with you next Monday as well. So as always, folks, stay safe out there, get outside and enjoy this fabulous weather. And with that being said, bon appetit, everyone. Cheers, Bert. I'll see you tonight at rehearsal, and hopefully we'll see everybody else out there this weekend. So take care. God bless. Stay safe, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jason.
Oh.